I was diagnosed in my 20s with polycystic kidney disease. So it's a genetic thing. My father had it. And it didn't really bother me until I was about 50 years old, which was in 2012. And that's when they failed completely, and I went on dialysis. And I was on dialysis for 3.5 years before I got a transplant. During this dialysis time, I had discovered the placebo book, and I had read that, got really excited that, you know, I could change things, and then I read Breaking the Habit, and I tried to meditate, but I dialyzed at home, and I thought I could do it while I was dialyzing, but that just didn't work with this loud machine behind me. So I was kind of disappointed in that, but you know, I just sort of lost interest. But fast forward to 2015 when I got my transplant from a cadaver donor. So I was very, very lucky because it's a very long waiting list. Got my transplant. Everything was just wonderful for a few weeks. And then the drugs they give you, there's so many drugs they give you, you know, after a transplant, that it destroyed my bones. When they first give you a transplant, you're very apt to reject right away. So they bombard you with steroids, just bombard you. Kidney disease in itself destroys your bones, and then they give you all these steroids, and you're just like a mess. Yeah, well, I was anyway. It doesn't happen to everyone, but it happened to me. My spine couldn't support the weight of my body anymore, and my spine started collapsing, and I broke T11, T12, L1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So everything sort of collapsed on itself. And later on, I also broke something up here, but they didn't really want to do any more MRIs or X-rays on me. It's just like, okay, you have another broken bone. And my arm went numb on that one. And so I was bedridden. I was in so much pain and couldn't do anything, really. My husband had to do everything for me. I was lucky, though. I was still able to, with a walker, get to the washroom, shower, and do all those sorts of things. But all my meals had to be brought to me because I couldn't make it downstairs in our 2-story house. And this is when I revisited Dr. Joe's work. The doctors didn't really have a lot of hope for me. They said, Gwen, if you don't go on, there was a daily injection they wanted me to do for a few years, and then go on bisphosphonate to rebuild my bones. And they told me that, you know, Gwen, the next fracture could paralyze you, because 2 of the fractures, T12 and L1 had burst when they collapsed, and fragments of bone went all over. So it was extremely painful, and with muscle spasms were, you know, my muscles would spasm on these broken bones, and it was horrible. So I started doing the meditations faithfully, and this was in March of 2016, and I knew that there was a workshop coming up in May in Seattle of 2016. And so I was determined to turn this around, because I didn't want any more fractures. I didn't want to do what the doctors wanted me to do. And so I thought, this is it. Like, this is all I have, is me. And so I worked really hard. I meditated for 4 hours a day, sometimes 5 hours a day, because I had nowhere else to go. I was stuck in bed. And I was able to get well enough for Seattle. And I went. Looking back, I don't know how I did it, but I got there. And the workshop was wonderful. I remember watching everybody dance and thinking, oh, I wish I could dance. So I would just hold the back of the chair and kind of sway a little bit, because that was about all I could do at that time. So then I've attended a few workshops since then, kept up the meditations. I don't do 4 hours a day anymore, but I try and get at least 2 hours in, and I haven't missed very many days in this year and a half. And I did a baseline DEXA scan, like a bone density scan. I did that in February of 2016, so right before I started meditating. And the improvement 14 months later when I had a second bone density scan was phenomenal. My family doctor was totally blown away. He says, "Gwen, you did this on your own because our drugs can't do that." I went from, my left hip went from a minus 3.4 to a minus 2.6, which is significant increase. It even said that on my report, that this is a significant increase. My spine went from, I'll have to look, sorry. My spine went from minus 2.7 to minus 2.0. So, and again, that's another significant increase, and I'm just tickled pink. I know I'm still in the, I'm still osteoporosis, possibly osteopenia by now, because it's been 6 months since that last scan, and I've kept up my meditating. All I take is a plant-based calcium. That's it. So here I am. I was in the mosh pit. I can dance again. I can wear high heels. I don't have them on today, but I can wear high heels again. That makes me really excited that eventually I could have the bones of a 20-year-old woman. And wouldn't that be fantastic?